Yard Farmers. Today I want to talk about thinning direct sown seedlings for kale. Planted these about 12 days ago. They've come up. I definitely planted more than I should, so we're going to need to thin them, and it's time to do that. So I want to just go ahead and show you how that's done. So I just want to show you here, I planted this whole row. We're going to come around. I've got these seed packets out. Planted this whole row of kale here, and I actually put out the packets, and I'll include some stills here, but I planted both red Russian and white Russian kale. And on the seed packets you get, it will tell you how many seeds in a spot to put, how much to thin them. What's interesting about these kale varieties was one of them says, you know, thin to every 8 to 10 inches apart. Another one says thin to every 18. So I decided to meet in the middle and ultimately do every 13 inches. Now you're going to look at that and go, Courtney, that is not 13 inches. The other thing that I did was I knew ultimately that I'll yank some of these out and use them for microgreens, while some of the other I'll let go to full size. So you can see I've actually put a little bamboo skewer here. This skewer to this skewer over here is 13 inches. So this little clump here isn't going to end up being a sacrificial kale. I'll end up eating it. It's just not going to get to full size. But the packets will say, you know, plant 3 to 5 seeds per hole. You'll notice that is way more than 3 to 5 seeds per area. So as they get bigger, when it says when they're 1 inch tall, you'll want to thin them. And so what I typically do is, as they grow up, I'll just gradually reduce the number in each section until ultimately I've got one left. So for example, looks like there's like 8 or 9 in this clump. Today I'm going to reduce it down to 3, and then as they continue to grow, ultimately I'll thin it down to 1. It will actually be survival of the fittest. It truly will. Like, whatever one looks healthiest and best is the one that's going to get to, you know, ultimately be that kale plant. So and like I said, this clump here ultimately will just not exist. So I'll let those get a little bit bigger, but because this will just get quite huge. The leaves are quite huge. I mean, they will just overshadow. So, but in the meantime, there's enough space to, you know, maybe grow some microgreens here, so it doesn't hurt anything to have anything in that space. So just wanted to show you here real quick. I'm going to start to cut these out. All right, so I've got this camera set up, so I just want to show you. And so the other thing is, people talk about thinning, you could yank them out, like pluck them out, but when you do that, it disturbs that soil down below. And these are plants that are just starting out, right? They're just trying to get their roots set, and all that soil disruption isn't good for the plants that you leave remaining. So a good way to do this on kale anyways is to just cut the ones that you don't want anymore, and because that will kill this plant, but it will leave the soil below undisturbed and happy. And so now you can see I just thinned that down to 4 plants. I yanked out these 3, and if you have a bowl, you can eat these as microgreens. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that for everyone. So these were spaced out enough. I was like, oh, I'll leave these 4. In a few days, whichever one's looking the happiest, maybe I'll cut another one until eventually there's just 1 left. So this is my haul at the end. I've got in here arugula, beets, and kale. So this is, I thinned my little kale seedlings over there. I thinned these beets, and I thinned this arugula. I really didn't do much thinning on that lettuce, although I should. And yeah, you get this nice bowl of microgreens to eat, and it makes a fun little salad that's really tasty. And I'll continue to do this, right? Every 5 or so days I'll come out and I'll just continue to thin as needed for the kale. It'll be, well, as you can see here, so there's the main, there's the main. He's gonna end up just being gone entirely. So I'll have these 2 at the beginning, but he's just going to be microgreens all the way along. And for the arugula, I mean, they're still a little crowded, but every few days I'll come out and I'll just thin them to give them the appropriate space they need. Same thing with the beets down there. So just every few days, come out and just until they're appropriately spaced, we'll just continue to thin and have more and more microgreens every time. All right, so a couple days we were out here, days ago we were out here thinning these, right, thinning the little seedlings, and I actually said these words, that it is survival of the fittest, sorry about that car, survival of the fittest for thinning these seedlings. So I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about. I thin these out. I have these spots for the kale where I've got them where I know the spacing should be, but I've got a couple seedlings per hole. And so I want to show you how I evaluate who gets to live and die in the garden. So you can see here, I've got 3 little kale starts. These were direct sown. And I just need to evaluate which one of these is the most robust and healthy looking one that I want to save and be the one that actually exists in this hole. And so you can see, just as I play around with these, like this one, see how his stem is like not as thick, and this one's actually looking not bad, but this one in the back here has the thickest stem. He's already put out 3, 1, 2, 3 of the mature leaves. Just actually, here's an opportunity I want to show you. Whenever you have a seedling, the seed itself has enough energy to put out these 2 little wonky looking leaves, and those are from the germ, right, when the seed germinates. And then these 2 leaves help it collect the sunlight, convert to chlorophyll, all convert to energy, that then helps the plant actually start on its path of growth to produce the leaves that actually look like the kale leaves that we all know and love. So, of these 3 in this hole, I think he's the one I'm going to keep. Sorry about your bad luck. Sorry about your bad luck. And that is literally what we call the survival of the fittest in the garden. So you might have noticed the guy that I left, the one that I left, he's looking a little wonky, right? He's not standing up. We're a little concerned, like, are you going to grow upright? What's your story? So I have a bunch of bamboo skewers that I'm going to take and kind of almost make like a frame so that he's not flopped over and that his growth habit is up and not laying down. So I'm going to do that real quick and then I'll show you how that looks. All right, so just a second ago we were looking at this little kale seed start that was flopped down, and it's hard to kind of get under here. There's space down in there. It's not like it can move, but because you don't want to constrict it, and it will grow and get a little bit bigger. But I'll just kind of put this frame up around it until it's strong enough to support itself and the growth habit is upright. So it's just a little thing I do, and I just use these are bamboo skewers for like grilling on the grill and stuff. That's all they are. So, and they'll be in there, and so he's the one who made it. He's the champion of this spot.